Hey guys, back here again today with a brand spanking new album review. I know it's been a while, but I'm healthy, I'm okay, I'm not dead, don't worry. Today we're going to be taking a look at the third studio album from EDM duo the Chainsmokers on World War Joy. The release cycle for this album was pretty much like identical to the last album, Sick Boy, with singles being dropped throughout the entire year. The only difference was there was like more than one new song on the new album compared to Sick Boy. I'm pretty sure all but one of the songs was pre-released. I'm not the biggest fan of that kind of rollout, doing single after single after single. Uh, it just makes the first listen not as impressionable or interesting if you already know all the songs on there. Nevertheless, it doesn't usually end up affecting my opinion. I don't think if they hadn't done that, because in the end of the day, it's still the same album. And just before we get into the review here, a little background on the Chainsmokers, as I'm sure most of you know who they are. Just a bit more info about them. And over the past few years since they've really blown up, they've unwillingly had their brand changed just due to their social status. Initially just appearing in the EDM scene, just like another EDM duo making EDM music with like songs like Let You Go and Kanye. They were pretty popular just off the bat in their own circle, but it wasn't until after they blew out of that where they started to have to, their image was kind of tattered. And what I found out just from talking about them, a lot of people don't even know they're the same artist that made that song #Selfie in like 2014. But going back to what I was saying, with their gigantic rise to fame with songs like Roses and Closer, like any artist that skyrockets to the top, they're going to get a good amount of hate for it as well. And unfortunately, they make the kind of music that people tend to kind of hate and label just as bad generic EDM music. And that label came along with their debut album, Memories Do Not Open, as a lot of the songs on there, as Andrew Taggart started singing instead of just features, they started to just be labeled off as another pop EDM duo that just wasn't very good. And honestly, they weren't helping their case much with Sick Boy either. Often, however, they were going back to their EDM roots with songs like Save Yourself featuring Nightmare. That song did give a much harder, more aggressive sound than anything on Memories Do Not Open, but I think it's almost too late for them to do anything, really, just because of how big they once were. But enough about them as a duo, let's get into the album here with the opener, The Reaper featuring Amy Shark. A more experimental beat comes in on the song, kind of fading in and out. I wish it had stayed more interesting throughout the entirety of the track, but I think it is better than just doing a stereotypical like trap beat or something. The drop on the song heavily relies on edited vocals of Amy Shark, and honestly, it doesn't really do the trick for me. It's kind of cool to listen one time through just on whatever kind of effects they do to her voice, but after that, it doesn't really show any other reason to return. Really, the only thing going on in the drop is her voice and like just basic drums. So I didn't really think it was that great of a listen, other than just hearing it once and being like, oh, cool, yeah, nice. Family with Kygo features Taggart's vocals on the song, and honestly, I couldn't have been more underwhelmed with this track. Being a big fan of both of the artists, and especially with Kygo having a really unique signature, I expected to hear something that kind of stood out. Instead, it was a very just watered down version of Kygo's style, honestly. It's like they couldn't come to a compromise to make something interesting and just ended up with this. It sounds like it would be like on the commercial for a track phone. See the Way featuring Sabrina Claudio takes a better jab at a vocally edited drop like The Reaper. Fortunately, this time the vocal edits kind of pans around a bit, and the effect on it is a bit stronger to give it some more grip instead of it just being a bit more too dry like The Reaper. Sadly, it doesn't have as interesting as a beat as The Reaper, so it does miss out on some other aspects, but overall I think it is a stronger improvement as an entire song. Push My Luck shows the state the Chainsmokers has kind of been living in, at least somewhat frequently, especially on their last album, that this is one of two spots where it's pretty obvious on here, where it's pretty much a pop song, a pop EDM song through almost the entirety of it with no real drop, and then right at the end they have a drop, a just straight up EDM drop. And it happens, like I said, twice on this album, once on this track, once on Kills You Slowly. Fortunately, they do a good job of kind of cutting down on these types of tracks. As on Sick Boy, I thought it was too prevalent, happened too many times, and they didn't differ enough. On here, The two songs have two very distinct styles. Kills You Slowly does have kind of a trap beat that just sounds generic, but it's a much chiller sound. As then on Push My Luck, it's very in your face, much more just friendly pop music for the 2/3, and the final drop is just kind of goes crazy. And while I do wish they would have just kind of made the drops occasionally happen throughout the song instead of just once at the end, I'm not going to complain too much because I still think it's an interesting way to make a song, just have a build pretty much be the whole song, even though it's a pop song for the rest of it. And a majority of the rest of the tracks are what made the Chainsmokers, almost going back to their roots in a kind of way. Great features, sticky melodies, and swooping synths just completely take over everything pretty much after this point, starting with the track Takeaway. With Elenium and featuring Lennon Stella, the song does come a little short on the vocal melody, with it not being as interesting as I usually want. However, the song is pretty fantastic regardless. Large glowing synths that Elenium is known for making pretty much take up the entirety of the drop. Honestly, it's kind of like an essential song for any new EDM or future-based listener. It's a very staple sound in the genre, I feel like. And that could be interpreted more as sounding generic as well, but I think it stands out enough that it's one of those songs that isn't just, oh, it's another future-based song. It's an interesting sounding future-based song with the little bits of almost like Easter eggs they put into the sound, so it does stand out just a tiny bit more. Call You Mine with BB Rexa, it kind of shows the proper mixture of how I wish songs like Push My Luck were made. The first drop in the song is pretty simple, but it's interesting enough to keep the listener there for, well, one listen of that exact drop. If it happened again later in the song, it probably would have just been too dull. Fortunately, at the end of the song, they have a soaring guitar come in, and it really turns into something else. It's not as dry as it would have been. It has much more energy. Also, to mention, BB Rex's vocals on this are absolutely beautiful, as her voice just hits these extremely high notes that really only BB can hit in the way that she does. And the chorus on the song is just addictive as hell as well, with the melody on it just flowing so naturally. The final song on the album, Who Do You Love, featuring 5 Seconds of Summer, was the lead single with an anthemic feeling to it. And honestly, it's like one of those songs that just comes together flawlessly. Like, it just sounds so natural, and there's no points where an instrument stops or a synth starts or something, and you're like, that kind of sounded off, or you at least notice it. In this song, it seems like everything comes in and out like beautifully. And as far as the drop goes, it's another like vocally edited drop with a very fuzzy bass on it. However, the vocal editing on this is pretty unique in itself and doesn't really sound generic or bland like the Reaper. And the energizing chorus that precedes it only makes the drop that much better, with the loud, echoing vocals that are delivered by 5 Seconds of Summer. With only a few instances of underproduced or overproduced moments, the highs outnumber the lows by far, and this is a pretty solid album, and especially a welcoming one to fans that are looking to get into EDM. So in the end, I'm going to give this album a 7. So let me know what you guys thought of the review here, what I should review next. Make sure to follow me on Twitter, and I will talk to you guys next time. See ya.